Mm-hmm.
Finally, right, hemisphere stroke survivors will have a diagnostic code within the healthcare system that they can see and have, and
Mm-hmm.
finally have recognition that something is wrong. And that is huge validation for the survivors and their loved ones to have this code recognized that, yes,
Mm-hmm.
this does exist. It's just monumental.
Yeah, it really is. That's a major accomplishment.
Yes,
Yeah,
we did it.
you did it. Yeah.
Recognition and validation for the survivors. And it's just such an accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel so very, very proud of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should be. I mean, that's so inspirational too, because I think, within our profession, sometimes I think that a lot of people tend to feel like there's not a lot of change that we can make happen. Um, and to be able to, but it goes back to the consistency, the discipline you have, the excellent work. But it also shows people that major things can happen when you implement those qualities as well. Welcome to Life, Language, and Lyrics podcast, where we explore our passions, live with purpose, and face our fears. I'm Lena, and some of you may know me as Dr. Davis. I'm a professor, speech language pathologist, baker, and lover of people with a mission to bring a little Southern comfort to your day. This is the Neuro News edition of the podcast, which highlights stories and essential information about brain injury, brain health, and a focus on sports related concussions. And the goal is to spread awareness and education on the effects of brain injury, shine a light on the critical role of speech language pathologists and other professionals in recovery and support. I have a very special guest with me today, Dr. Jamila Minga, who is a research associate professor at Duke University in the School of Medicine. Her research focuses on acquired neurogenic communication disorders, more specifically, language disorders after right hemisphere stroke. Thank you for being here, Dr. Minga.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Davis. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Okay, so one, I'll just say that I'm so excited because we have been talking about this for quite a while and we finally got to get our schedules together.
For so long, it's been years, it seems like.
It is, yeah, it has been a long time, but you know what? Everything happens when it's supposed to. So I'm just so excited that you're here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with, I told people what your profession is, and we're going to dig a lot more into that. But can you tell us a little bit about who you are outside of your professional titles and
Uh,
even some of the things that bring you joy?
okay. So outside of my professional titles and outside of work, so I am a very family-oriented person and a friend. So I am the daughter of a thalidomide. And so my mother was a double amputee. She had a above the knee and a below the knee amputation as a baby. She's now deceased, and I think that I get um, my nurturing and my advocacy intuitions and definitely roots from growing up with her. I have an identical twin. Many people don't know that, but then find that out in around here, especially in North Carolina, when they think that they see me out and about, but it's actually my twin. I am a mother of two wonderful children. I have a brilliant 16-year-old, Hael, and a precocious 11-year-old, Ezra. I am a fur mom to a 5-year-old Bengal cat who likes to take walks around the neighborhood on a leash and harness. I
Oh,
have been married for 22 years to the
wow.
love of my life, 26 years. And I enjoy running and reading and gardening and listening to my children play their string instruments. So my daughter plays violin, my son plays the cello. With respect to my friendships, I have a very close circle of sister friends that I love dearly. I consider myself to be an introvert, and that's not to be confused with a person that does not talk.
Mm-hmm.
I am
Mm-hmm.
very selective about whom I talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a very close circle of friends who I really enjoy spending time with. And so that's my life outside of my professional titles.
I love that. It all sounds so beautiful. And I just know that when people watch this, when you say those years, they're gonna be like, she don't look like she could have been married for that long and a
You,
16-year-old.
I get that a lot. I went to Florida recently to visit my aunt, and my
Mm.
sister and I celebrated our birthday, and we got carded a lot, and we got asked, no, you must be like 16 years old, and my sister's also a doctor, only she's on she's a DO.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes her patients they see me out and they're like, Dr. Hicks, Dr. Hicks, and I'm just like, well, where is she? Where is she? And they say, no, Dr. Hicks, Dr. Hicks. And I'm like, I'm not Dr. Hicks. And stop playing. You just gave me my physical the other day, Dr. Hicks. And I'm just like, no, I'm not Dr. Hicks. I'm like, I'm Dr. Minga. And they're like, you guys really should tell people that you're twins. Mhm.
Just randomly walk in. Hi, I'm Dr.
Mhm.
Minga and I'm a
Yeah,
twin.
yeah, exactly. We should lead with it.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Hicks and I'm a twin. I'm Dr. Minga and I'm a twin. Yeah, should lead with it.
Oh, that's too funny. Well,
Mhm.
that sounds beautiful. I love that your kids play string instruments. That sometimes when I think about if I went back and changed the instrument I chose, I would have chose maybe the violin. 'Cause I think this string instruments just sound so beautiful.
Oh, they are beautiful. I love to hear them play. It's just so relaxing
Mhm.
and it was very intentional. Well, actually my daughter, when she was 2, she did ask to play um the violin, and I
Mhm.
used to play when I was younger. And
Mhm.
she did ask to play, and we couldn't find anyone that would take her. The only place that would take her was Duke Strings
Okay.
around here. They would take her so young. Usually they don't take students to play the string instruments at that young of an age.
Mhm.
But Duke Strings would take her, and the violin was just so tiny.
Oh.
It was the tiniest little thing. I couldn't believe they made violins that small. Tiny and scratchy, but yeah, she's really, really good, really good, and so is he. He's very good too. But boys are a little different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so tell us what led you to become a speech language pathologist, and specifically what drew you to write hemisphere disorders and neurogenic communication?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So I told you that I had a twin, and like most people, growing up, and my mother was disabled,
Mm,
being a double amputee, and growing up, my twin and I always had the ambition to go into the medical field, and we always desired to be physicians, the two of us.
mm-hmm.
I changed that when we were in undergrad, and the impetus for that change really grew from taking prerequisite courses for medical school. I was on my way to be with my sister in medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And we were taking prerequisite courses and participating in the medical, and we were participating in the medical summer programs, the MED program at UNC Chapel Hill. We participated in the Morehouse medical program in Georgia. And in the course of taking the prerequisite courses, I basically was exposed to taking linguistics courses in that course of taking the physics courses and all of the rigorous courses that aligned with biology and chemistry and physics courses. And one of the individuals who was recommending easy courses suggested that I take a linguistics course in order to kind of lighten the load with the prerequisite chemistry and physics courses. And in that, I took a linguistics course, and I was exposed to phonetics in the IPA.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I was transcribing everything, and I really loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this is pretty cool. This whole transcription thing, and who falls in love with transcription? And who sits down and transcribes like songs? And who sits down and transcribes the news and show me? And so like, that's pretty cool. And I met with one of my linguistics phonetics professors, and he said, you're really good at this. And you can still go to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still go to medical school, and you can really set yourself apart if you major in linguistics. Have you ever thought about that? And I said, I really like this. And I started taking semantics courses, and I started taking more linguistics courses.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you're really good at this. You're really good. And then I branched out, and I started taking more sociolinguistics courses under the tutelage of Walt Wolfram at NC State. And I love sociolinguistics.
Yeah.
And at that point, I kind of had an epiphany. And I said, oh my gosh, I love this. And I started doing small research projects with, at that time, Ebonics was a big thing, and they called it Ebonics at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was when they were doing these, what is his name? John Bach was doing the studies in Boston with the voices over the and I'm really kind of teasing out biases with AAVE. And I fell in love with the sociolinguistic piece. And I decided at that time, and I was preparing for the MCAT and getting ready to apply to medical school. And I kind of went to my mom and I said, I don't think I'm going to medical school anymore. And at that time, my mom said, linguistics? Do with linguistics? You're not going to make any money with linguistics. What job are you going to get with linguistics, Jamila? I'm not going to do anything with that. And I thought about it, and I was like, you're right. What am I going to do with linguistics? And I went back to my professor, and he said, no, your interest is in linguistics and biology. Have you ever thought about speech pathology? And I said, I've never heard of speech pathology. He introduced me at the time to Dr. Robert Mayo and Dr. Celia Hooper, who were both at UNC Chapel Hill. And I went over and I spoke with them and I shadowed them. And that was it.
That was it.
That was it. And I applied to the master's program, got in, and the rest is history. And then when I entered the master's program, I was in Dr. Celia Hooper's class. and I took her adult language disorders class, and a part of her class was to write a paper on neurogenic communication disorders. And of course, everyone that was in that class that was interested in adult neurogenics, there weren't many. Most people wanted to do pediatrics. Anyone that was interested in adult neurogenics wanted to do aphasia. And of course, I don't like aphasia at all. And of course, I've always been pretty much a contrarian. If everyone is looking to the left and I'm going to go to the right, I didn't want to do anything that anyone else was doing. And that's always been my personality. I'm not one that follows the crowd. Just my personality. Yeah. And so if everyone is doing something, I'm not going to go that way. And so I remember being in Dr. Celia Hooper's class, and she had this list of disorders, and I remember reading about right hemisphere brain damage, even in her class back then. I wrote my first paper on right hemisphere brain damage in her class, and unsurprisingly, not much has changed since then, but we're making some strides with my research. Unsurprisingly, not a whole lot has changed, but we are changing some things. But I remember writing my first paper in her class during my master's program, and thinking, there must be more. There has to be more with the right hemisphere than we're actually looking at. And I wrote my first paper during my master's program, and I remember writing and saying, with my linguistics background in mind, and saying, no, we're not thinking about this correctly. There has to be more.
Okay, so you were already moving into the researcher mind very early.
Yes, very early.
Okay, well, for those who may not be familiar with what right hemisphere disorder is, can you talk about that? Can you tell us what it is and how it can affect a person's communication in their daily life?
Sure. Well, right hemisphere disorder, or RHD, is a term used to describe a constellation of receptive and expressive language and cognitive disorders experienced by survivors of right hemisphere stroke. Now, the disorders include what we now call apragmatism, the acquired language disorders that cause challenges in contextual understanding and use of nonverbal and verbal language, with domains of attention, executive functions, memory, and visual spatial processes that may all be impaired. Now, when people think of right hemisphere stroke specifically, sometimes what I like to tell people when they want to distinguish a right hemisphere stroke, left hemisphere stroke, and they think about distinguishing them physically, a right hemisphere stroke often results in physical limitations on the left side of the body. Whereas a left hemisphere stroke will result in physical limitations on the right side of the body. Okay. So that's a way for people to kind of tell whether or not they have a right-sided stroke as opposed to a left-sided stroke.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for telling us what it is. Because I don't think that a lot of people, I think that when people hear stroke, they just hear that something has happened to the brain and may not necessarily know that there are big differences that occur whether the lesions or the damage happens on the left side of the brain or the right side of the brain, and how that presents in their loved one or the person that they know that has had the stroke. So I think this is a really important conversation. Now you did mention say it again.
Apragmatism.
Apragmatism. Thank you. And then I think I was going to ask you about aprosodia. Are those two different things, or is aprosodia a thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aprosodia is a thing, and aprosodia is actually captured under apragmatism.
Okay.
So aprosodia is an acquired, we would consider that an acquired paralinguistic aspect of apragmatism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and aprosodia affects the ability to understand and or express prosody. And this is the manipulation of pitch, rhythm, tone, and timing that gives speech its emotional and social meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different forms of aprosodia.
Mm-hmm.
This can be linguistic aprosodia and emotional aprosodia. Um, when um, when a right hemisphere stroke survivor has aprosodia, they may have challenges distinguishing between various emotional states. That's the emotional piece. For example, sarcasm and sincerity,
Mm-hmm.
urgency and calmness, um, empathy or apathy. Or they may have challenges with different word forms,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the linguistic aprosodia. So the verb to present versus the noun present, right? So intact, receptive, and expressive prosody is crucial to communication. And it helps us to determine when it's appropriate to take turns in conversation. It helps us to make inferences about linguistic meanings of utterances.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps us to connect emotionally when we converse.
Yeah. Yeah. So also very close to what happens to individuals with traumatic brain injury, which is my jam. Right. And these individuals end up having some challenges in social or interpersonal relationships a lot of times. I know we'll get into your documentary, but I remember the one particular woman who her marriage ended, um, after having that type of experience. Um, what I was also going to bring up is I don't have you been seeing the trend on social media right now where people are giving like their family member a phrase and they need to say it in all the different emotions?
No.
It's a trend right now. They'll pick different phrases. I just did it with my dad for Father's Day. I'll let you go see it because he has his favorite cuss word, and so I worked that into.
What's his favorite curse word?
His favorite cuss word is shit. So he says I had him say, well, my brother had him say, "You shitting me?" That he says that all the time. If I call him and tell him something, he'll go, "You shitting me?" And so we had him say it in all the different tones. And so for those who are watching, what Dr. Minga was just explaining, the person who has right hemisphere disorder, on the expressive side would have a challenging time with changing
Yeah,
the tone to match whatever the emotion is.
yeah,
And then they on the receptive side, they may have a hard time understanding the differences in tone if someone else is saying that same phrase in a different way.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to send it to you.
Yeah, do send it to me. I'm not a big social media person. I'm trying. I am trying, but I am not a big social media person. My students are
It
trying
is.
to get into it. It's just a lot. It's
It
just,
is.
it's too much. Yeah.
It really is a lot. Um, okay. Continuing on our conversation of right hemisphere, do you use dysfunction or disorder?
I use disorder, not dysfunction. I try to stay
Okay.
away from dysfunction.
Hmm.
And so I have a tendency to use disorder.
Okay. I think I like that word better too.
Mhm.
Dysfunction sounds not person first or
Mhm.
or friendly.
Yeah.
Um, so what are some signs that family members or even healthcare providers may overlook in someone who has right hemisphere disorder?
Oh my God. I feel like there are so many signs, Dr. Davis. so many signs. I think the most, signs is a tricky word.
Mm-hmm.
I like to shift the verbiage a little and say
Okay.
the most overlooked consequence
Mm.
of RHD or consequences
Mm-hmm.
of RHD are indeed the language disorders themselves. And
Yeah.
I say that because I want to lump them and say the consequences of the language disorders, and more specifically apragmatism as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
are grossly overlooked. Because right hemisphere stroke survivors can produce language with intact sentence structure, intact
Mm-hmm.
grammar, intact intelligibility. Family members and healthcare practitioners alike, and even the survivors themselves. The survivors are often viewed as communicatively healthy,
Mm-hmm.
but they are in fact pragmatically impaired.
Mm-hmm.
Neither survivors nor their loved ones recognize changes in communication, and this may look like small changes in interactions. They can be so small that they're not recognized until the relationships are dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
And this may look like not asking questions during dinner, not picking up on nonverbal cues at a restaurant with a server,
Mm-hmm.
an inability to make eye contact, whereas before eye contact may have been constant,
Mm-hmm.
or timing of contributions to the conversation. A loved one may notice that the gentle whisper of "I love you" in the evening is no longer there. They may notice that that person doesn't pick up on the slight, curvature of their lip when they're
Mm-hmm.
sad. Um, the, the tear dropping of when they're upset. They may not get that. They may not even notice it, that they're upset.
Yeah.
The furrowing of the eyebrow, they may not even notice that that's happening. That's an indicator of some type of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
The gestures, the slight gestures, or the tensing of the shoulders that may indicate some type of emotion that their partner is going through.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they may have picked up before,
Yeah.
but they're not getting it.
Yeah.
All of these different nuances of communication that are pragmatic aspects of communication that they're just not getting, that are nonverbal and some verbal, that they're not getting, that actually tie those relationships together. They're not getting them. And then the relationships fail. And then they're no longer in the relationships. And they're no longer happy.
Mm-hmm.
And these are personal relationships, which are the most meaningful as we age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can then go to the professional relationships
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't even touched on, right?
Yeah.
For the employment
Keeping a job. Mm-hmm.
of keeping a job. When we talk about young stroke and the higher incidence of young stroke, we haven't even touched that younger stroke population
Mm-hmm.
where they're having more strokes,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're having more strokes. We're not even touching that population that still needs to work, has to work, right?
Yeah.
Haven't even touched that population.
Yeah.
And then the women who are increasingly for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. It's an interesting thing. I'm assuming people listen to this, they might be thinking, hmm, I do know that my uncle had a stroke or my and I'm recognizing some of those things with them. Let me ask you, as a Black speech language pathologist, professor, researcher, what do you see as your role in addressing health disparities and issues of race within healthcare and communication sciences?
Such a loaded question. I'm gonna try to,
We want to save the world.
but do you really, but wait. Um, okay. How do I address it? I'm going to address this succinctly because I can go on and on with this.
Mhm.
As a multi-ethnic female who identifies as Black, that works at an R1 as a speech language pathologist,
Mhm.
professor, and researcher, I think that my role is to be a representative example of what is and can be within the field of communication sciences and disorders, and more
Mhm.
specifically within the research area of right hemisphere disorders.
Mhm.
I lead my research with innovation, integrity, and forward thinking, keeping the issues of my various cultural identities in perspective when making decisions. And I take that responsibility very seriously,
Mhm.
extremely seriously, such that um, every decision that I make keeps that at the forefront.
Mhm.
And and that's very important, extremely important. And it's a very important role, and it can be a weighty,
Mhm.
to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I think about Black excellence in research in this profession, definitely are at the top of that list. Just the work that you've been able to do, the consistency, the things that you've been able to put out, your publications, all of that. So I see it, and I know that everyone else does too. So that level of excellence in work and representing is definitely coming through.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. I certainly try. I mean, it's blood, sweat, and tears, sis.
Yes, yes, because
So rings of fire.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, and then in terms of, let's talk about the people that we serve that look like us, or just from diverse groups in general. What are, and you could also, if you want to relate this to your research, however you want to answer this, but what gaps do you believe still exist in how we serve culturally and linguistically diverse people with neurogenic communication disorders?
Oh, gaps, gaps, gaps. What gaps do I think that we have? Um, oh my gosh, what gaps do I think there are? Listen, listen. So I think that in speech pathology as a whole, largely in our field, there is still a tendency to approach diversity retroactively instead of proactively. And when we think of communication, communication is culturally bound. There's no question, right? And in a field where we treat, assess, and study communication, we would think that culture would innately be at the root. But it's not. And it should be. But in a profession where, particularly where for acquired neurogenic communication disorders, and particularly for stroke, there are less than 5% of the profession that identifies as Black, and less than 8% that have PhDs in order to drive the evidence for research. That there is not a priority to really lay the foundation to have a cultural emphasis on the empirical evidence for communication, for communication disordered, rehabilitative evidence. It's just not. There's no priority.
Yeah.
And
I think it should be. It should be. I think that there's still this idea or thought within those of us who do neuro work overall that the brain is the brain and the functions that come from it are what they are, but not recognizing that it's shaped by the cultural experiences that we have as we grow up. And there's also the expectation that everyone is supposed to speak in a certain way and, assimilate to this one. I don't even know what the term is used for what that's supposed to be anymore. It used to be standard, then it was mainstream. But I think that expectation is still there. And if you don't talk like what we say it should be, it's an other, or communicate in that way.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It's I don't know. It's really, you would think now we understand, that communication is culturally bound. And and that is really one of the biggest challenges that I see is that, many of our diagnostic and treatment approaches are largely insensitive to cultural nuances.
Yeah. Our tests.
Our tests, right. And when I consider right hemisphere stroke specifically, there are gross disparities in care, regardless of ethnicity and race, granted, right? Regardless of the identity. But we know that stroke incidence, particularly in the South, and particularly with minoritized communities and populations, that there's just a higher incidence of stroke. So we must, absolutely must, begin to proactively consider the ways in which communication is impacted after stroke from a cultural lens, so that we can appropriately and accurately measure and treat deviances, not the differences. And having said that, we know that like patient and provider, there is this patient-provider congruence that actually positively impacts rehabilitation outcomes. We know that it impacts it. And if we can increase that congruence by getting more diverse caregivers, particularly speech pathology, and more diverse researchers, PhDs, when we get them to do the research, then we can positively impact the outcomes of these populations. In very positive ways, we can generate new and novel ways of thinking about rehab, not the same old ways. Well, there are benefits to diversity of thinking, and bringing new ways of thinking about things into these spaces. And you have to do that by bringing in different people.
Yeah. You said it. You said it. Well, Dr. Minga, I'm going to shift a little bit here, because along with all of the wonderful research that you do, you have also put this into some visualizations for us, right? You created a documentary that is also on PBS, right? Congratulations. Can you tell us about the documentary?
Oh, my baby. Okay. So my documentary, RHD Hidden Diagnosis, is a 29-minute award-winning curation of the lived experiences of right hemisphere stroke survivors and their loved ones. It also chronicles speech language pathology graduate students providing communication treatment to the population for the first time. And it was such a wonderful experience to do that documentary.
Yeah.
I thought to do it just because I was hearing the stories of these stroke survivors and really wanted others to hear the stories of the stroke survivors, and knew that while I could write about these experiences, that really and truly a better way and a more public facing way to really get individuals to learn about the impact of right hemisphere stroke was to let people really see these survivors. And this was the outcome.
Yeah. It's a beautiful documentary.
Thank you.
I'm so glad I was able to make it to your presentations when you presented it to us.
Thank you. Thank you. We're working on a docu-series now. We're just finished filming that.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah. We're working on the series, and we should be finished with all of the B-roll for it in October. We hope.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's coming up fast. Oh, I
Yes,
can't wait.
yes, we're really excited about it, and it's also going to be in competition, so we might not get it out to the public. We hope to submit it for ASHA
Mm-hmm.
for 2027. Once we get it through a couple of competitions,
Yeah.
and get it out. Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was very well the documentary, was very well put together.
Yeah.
The stories were um so impactful. I remember feeling emotional at certain parts of the viewing. So, this is good. What would you say is the most meaningful thing you learned through the process of creating this, and even talking about your series? What has been the most meaningful thing for you?
I think the most meaningful thing that I've learned through the process has been that has been the power of the personal narrative,
Mm-hmm.
the healing power of the personal narrative. And I knew that going into it, that it would be a powerful way to share the stories of the survivors, but I didn't know how cathartic it would be for the survivors
Mm-hmm.
and what they would actually benefit from telling their story and going through the process of
Yeah.
telling their stories on camera,
Yeah.
and how helpful it would be for them through their recovery journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too. Because we also got to meet one of
Mhm.
the individuals, because you brought him to actually participate in a presentation with you, and he was fantastic.
Well, Simon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so comical. But yeah, that was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You read Simon's paper that came out recently?
No, I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think.
it's an AJSLP.
Oh, well, I'm gonna go look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll put the link to the documentary and I'll put a reference for the paper
Yeah.
in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's looking forward to coming back to Asha. So we hope to get him back. Um, he wants to come back. He did try to come back to Asha. They rejected him
Oh,
for a follow-up um,
oh,
for a follow-up talk, which he was very dismayed.
yeah,
They wouldn't allow him to come back and talk again. Uh, yeah.
interesting. Well, you never just really know with those reviewers.
Yeah.
As, I, as I've been one before, but you just never know what's coming out or how things are being rated sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna shift again a little bit. Because when I first met you, we were young, spry doctoral students.
Yes, we were.
Um, and you were doing a lot of work in question asking,
Mhm.
related to right hemisphere disorder, and you also did some work specific to Black women.
Yeah.
Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Like what you learned about Black women with right hemisphere disorder, or was it related to right hemisphere disorder?
Yes, it was.
Okay, okay. I thought so. And then why why was this important for you?
Yes. So I did a seminal study examining question asking in women, looking at the differences between a group of women that identified as Black and a group of women that identified as white, um, with a sample of each experiencing right hemisphere stroke. Now, this study showed that Black women communicated differently than white women, but specifically when considering question asking, that they asked fewer questions and asked questions differently than white women. And the infrequency of question asking was even less when the women had a right hemisphere stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the study suggests is that clinicians should perhaps take a proactive approach to information giving during the clinical interaction and not wait for patients to ask questions about their treatment or recovery.
Mm-hmm.
This study was important to me because I identify as a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And as a Black woman interacting with healthcare professionals, I have experienced not so good interactions with healthcare providers. And that communication interaction, especially when dealing with incongruence, patient provider incongruence can be a little tricky with communicative interactions. And with this study, I wanted to do this because we as Black women hold many different roles in our lives. And when a right hemisphere stroke occurs, those roles can be impacted in various ways. And sometimes, as Black women, we have the role of being the head of household.
Yeah.
And we are the head of household. We are the caretakers of many people in our families, the caretakers of the children. Sometimes we're the caretakers of adults in our lives, caretakers of parents, aging individuals. And when those individuals are relying on us and a right hemisphere stroke occurs and this communication is impaired, there are all kinds of things that can just go awry. Okay? And especially if you are the sole caretaker for all of these individuals and you're the one that's also working. And so this study was very important to me in examining the question asking. And so this is why I wanted to do this study, and it was very, very important to me. The question asking piece is also important to me because it was the one pragmatic aspect that I felt was quantifiable and very identifiable to clinicians. And I feel like that questions are the pragmatic piece that is so very salient that we can actually figure out a way to treat it as well.
Yeah.
You can not only identify it very readily, but we can also treat it in some way. I'm actually working on the treatment, so I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
And so this was a way to kind of get at the cultural piece and also get at the identification piece, and then hopefully here in the very near future, get at the treatment piece as well.
Yeah. I think that that's so important too, because question asking is not really talked about that much, right? Especially for therapists, we ask a lot of questions. My students, I'm always trying to shift them away from those WH questions. They love to write a WH question goal. But when we think about our clients moving through life, being able to ask questions is a part of advocacy at the same time, right? Because if you're not thinking about asking questions, or if and maybe you can tell us a little bit more what you found about how questions are asked or not asked, or like, is it that they're not asking questions, or is it that the way that questions are asked are maybe a challenge or not going deep enough. But in any instance like that, it could be a detriment when you think about people going to the bank, going to the doctor's office, having to go to their kids' school, and have a parent-teacher meeting. A kid who needs to learn how to do things independently, right? I think it's such an important aspect that as clinicians, even though we talk a lot about client-centered treatment, I don't know, and I don't know, I'm not in everybody's session, but I know that when I'm doing a lot of supervising, I do a lot of training up for the students to give space for the client to ask or to teach them how to advocate for themselves. So I'm just wondering about, the types of questions and what do you see in terms of what clinicians are doing or not doing?
Yes. So when it comes to question asking, we found that so there was a the types of questions were different.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about question asking, lots of people think only about those WH questions, the who, what, where, when, why questions.
Mm-hmm.
And they only want to focus on those, right? With right hemisphere stroke, what we tend to find is that they don't ask questions overall
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, but there are different types of questions. And the WH questions, they have a tendency not to ask those, but more importantly, the types of questions that we would expect them to ask in conversation are the polar questions, and those aren't the WH questions.
Mm-hmm.
They are the questions that actually elicit a dichotomous response. That's the yes, no responses. Those are your
Mm-hmm.
questions that are your questions that elicit a yes, no response. So those are questions like, are you a professor?
Mm-hmm.
And you would answer yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going home? Yes or no. Is it your birthday today? Yes or no. Am I supposed to take this medicine today? Yes or no. Um, is my cholesterol okay? Yes or
Mm-hmm.
no. Am I supposed to return to an appointment tomorrow? Yes or no. Do I need to do this exercise 3 times a week? Yes or no. So it's those types of questions that are not being asked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not your open-ended questions, your WH questions necessarily that we are expecting in
Mm-hmm.
instances that are not being asked. It's your polar questions that are the most infrequently asked
Mm-hmm.
that we are expecting that they are not asked.
Mm-hmm.
So those questions we think require more of a cognitive, they're higher level questions
Mm-hmm.
that require more of a cognitive capacity to actually generate, to get to actually formulate
Yeah.
in the WH question.
Yeah. There's an executive function aspect to that
Mm-hmm.
where, because what I hear you saying too is there's not a lot of requests for clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, you have to process, I need some more information to do this task or to solve this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Wow.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So they're not asking, they're not getting there. They're
Yeah.
not getting to those higher level questions. And in some instances, they're not even getting to WH questions, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting to those either.
is that a connection to the differences with like micro and macro processing with right hemisphere disorder? Um, in terms of what am I thinking? I'm trying to ask. Um, seeing the bigger picture versus taking the little parts of
Mm.
it. Is there
So we're not at all sure
okay.
about the under like the processes
Mhm.
that actually go along with it.
Okay.
Um, I think that definitely executive processing is involved
Mhm.
just because of some of this, this study where we looked at conversation and we looked at some of the tests that we did, and we saw some association between some of the tests of cognition and question asking, where we saw some associations, but
Mhm.
we're not all sure exactly what's happening with all of this.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it very well could be that there are some definite cognitive processes and some um, underlying things. I had proposed with the right hemisphere um, framework for asking questions that there are some processes that are happening there for the
Mhm.
question asking, but a lot.
Yeah.
We have so
Yeah.
much work to do with all of this from the language production side of things. We're really just at the beginning of trying to understand the behaviors and understand the processes. I
Mhm.
just don't know. We need more researchers.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah.
researchers. We need more people kind of looking at all of these things from different vantage points.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. It's we'll have to chat more because I feel like I want to ask more questions. I don't want to keep you here for 3 hours either.
But Lillian Pay and I just published a, a paper. It just came out
Yeah.
yesterday with TBI and right
Mhm.
hemisphere stroke survivors looking at
Yes.
question asking. And
Yeah.
so there are some similarities with
Yes.
question asking and TBI. So there is some
Yeah.
a little bit of overlap there.
It really is. It's so much. When I teach, well, actually, I don't teach neuro language anymore, but I always try to make connections with the students because, they tend to compartmentalize a lot of things, but showing them how there's a lot of similarities with those groups. We just don't see a lot of the visual
Spatial.
challenges,
Yeah.
visual spatial challenges that you see with right hemisphere with TBI. And Yalin is one of my good friends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's so smart and just I love her energy and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, in terms of some of the things that we've talked about, I know this is a big question, but I'm gonna ask you to narrow it as much as you can. Um, where do you see the greatest opportunities for change over the next 5 to 10 years? And I'll say related to right hemisphere disorder. If you want to keep it general, keep it general. If you want to relate it to cultural responsiveness, you can. But I would say, in terms of right hemisphere disorder, what do you see some of the greatest opportunities for change?
Change. Oh,
In terms of change you'd like to see.
my goodness. Change that I'd like to see. Hmm. So much change. Um, change that I like to see. So, okay, I got a couple of things. So
Okay.
I'm gonna start with one. This isn't gonna be a fan favorite,
Okay.
but can we try to abandon AI? just just a little bit. So I think there is a place for AI. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I don't want to go too much into the weeds,
Mm-hmm.
but truly, but let's try to cultivate a next generation of student clinicians and researchers that can critically think with their own brain.
Mm-hmm.
And, because I think like when I taught in Dr. Davis, my students hated my classes. They did. They did. They did. They used to complain about them all the time. They said they were hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I often made them turn off their computers and write.
Mm-hmm.
And they did complain about them. But they could critically think and they could problem solve.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like, our patients are human. And therefore, by nature, they present as inherently different from one another. And so we can't treat them as if their problems can be solved by an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that teaching critical thinking and problem solving
Mm-hmm.
and question asking skills will forever serve the next generation of clinicians and clinician scientists. And frankly, those that may serve us in our aging years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As we age and may end up with some of these disorders really well.
Yeah.
One thing that I think that we could change. And I think that's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
I think other opportunities for change in the next 5 to 10 years with right hemisphere stroke specifically will be to change our mentality of thinking about communication and language.
Mm-hmm.
To move away from thinking that language disorders only and solely exist
Mm-hmm.
from damage to the left hemisphere. Now,
Mm-hmm.
change that mentality of thinking and look beyond language disorders to be inclusive of pragmatic language, then my God, we have gotten somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that would be just beautiful.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. What do you think that clinicians, educators, researchers, and students, and if you want to choose one, because I'm giving you a long list, what do you think that we could be doing right now to make a difference?
What can we do right now to make a difference? I I think I'm going to continue on based on what I just said. So I'm going to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's the right time for clinicians, educators, and researchers to think differently about language disorders,
Mm-hmm.
particularly after right hemisphere stroke,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can begin to make steps. And these can be small, these can be incremental steps, nothing huge, to make a functional difference in the lives of survivors. And this really should be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
When we think differently, we can begin to assess differently. When we assess differently, then we can begin to treat differently. A great impetus for this can be to have individuals that possess any number of varying perspectives and profiles
Mm-hmm.
within the clinical, educational, and research space. And we as a profession, must do better about recognizing the benefits and the importance of, and also the respect of varying perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to agree. And in fact, I believe that there's therapeutic strength when we can agree to disagree
Mm-hmm.
and come to a compromise
Yeah.
for the benefit of our patients.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Dr. Minga, what keeps you motivated in this work?
Oh my God.
I know, we talked about change and we know that, you even made the comment like, oh, it's a lot. There's a lot to think about. So even when the progress feels slow, right? Because even if we even think about the state of the world, it felt like we were on this like up and then now it's like, what is happening with with what we're doing? But what keeps you motivated?
I am always, Dr. Davis, motivated to continue my work by my survivors and my students,
Mm-hmm.
the next generation of clinicians and researchers.
Yeah.
Each time that I interact with a survivor and their families, I am energized.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear their story and that I actually have the opportunity to mentor and to have a discussion with a student, and I see that spark in their eye, and there's an aha moment,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. I love that. And I completely understand as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which of your professional accomplishments or projects are you the most proud of and why?
You want me to do one? Okay.
You can go. You can tell me more than one if there is one. Give me all of
All right. Okay. Okay. Let me do. Let me see. Oh my goodness. Okay. I want to say all of them, but I'm going to say two. Okay.
Okay.
Two. Okay. Okay. I will say two. Oh my goodness. Because it's like grade three. Oh my goodness. Okay. Most proud of. Okay. Let's just say two. I'm going to say two, maybe three. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm most proud of, okay, the RHD Bank.
Mm-hmm.
So the RHD Bank is an internationally shared database for the study of language disorders after right hemisphere stroke. And I created it in 2016
Mm-hmm.
after recognizing that, communication deficits after right hemisphere stroke were very salient, and that they were most salient during discourse. And at that time, no one was really looking at discourse. And, it is the largest shared database for the study of discourse. And we're learning really quite a bit from this database. And it allows individuals to contribute and share, and also the ICD-10-CM code with another accomplishment that I'm very proud of. For the first time ever, we will have a diagnostic code for language disorders after right hemisphere stroke. That has never been done. Finally, right hemisphere stroke survivors will have a diagnostic code within the healthcare system that they can see and have, and finally have recognition that something is wrong
Yeah.
at a healthcare system level. And that is huge validation for the survivors and their loved ones to have this code, and for the neurologists and the nurses, PT, OT, speech pathologists, and all of the healthcare practitioners to have this in writing recognized that, yes, this does exist. It's just monumental.
Yeah, it really is. That's a major accomplishment.
Yes.
Wow.
And the ICD-10 CM code was created with Dr. Travis Threats, Dr. Denai Fannin, Dr. Keisha Bentley Bradley, Dr. Nada Husseini, my doctoral student, Shanika Phillips Philwood, all comprising the ad hoc apragmatism ICD-10 CM committee that I convened, where we kind of wrote a proposal. We presented it to the National Center for Health Statistics and the CDC, and it was this multi-year project. And
Yeah.
we did it.
You did it. You did it, correct.
In a very public way.
Yeah.
Recognition and validation for the survivors. And it's just such an accomplishment. I just feel so very, very proud of this. Yeah.
Yeah. And you should be. I mean, that's so inspirational too, because I think, within our profession, sometimes I think that a lot of people tend to feel like there's not a lot of change that we can make happen. And to be able to, but it goes back to the consistency, the discipline you have, the excellent work. But it also shows people that major things can happen when you implement those qualities as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's definitely a labor of love.
Yes.
Labor of love and dedication. And, I always say that right hemisphere stroke research, it's my passion. It's my love. I'm truly dedicated to it. I don't do it for myself. I do it for the survivors and their loved ones. And yeah.
Love it. Well, Dr. Minga, when people watch this episode, what is one thing you hope they remember about communication, culture, and humanity?
Yeah, great question. I would say that I hope that they remember that communication and culture are so varied and beautiful and really the keystones of humanity. If we all just take time to look at them through this lens, we might even see the sort of beauty that is imperfectly perfect. And that for me is the right side communication.
I love it. I love that. Well, now we're at one of my favorite parts. So we've gotten all the good meat from you, but now we get to learn a little bit more about you in connection to music. All right, because I do believe that music is a soundtrack to our lives. And so there are songs, there's musical sounds that bring us back to things, that help us to come up and to come down, right? So I'm going to ask you a few questions about songs that are important to you. The first one I wanted to ask you is about your documentary. If your documentary had an official theme song, what would it be and why?
This was such a hard question.
I bet.
Oh my goodness. it was such a hard question because, as I think about the documentary, I could have approached this question from so many different vantage points.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, when I thought about it from an inspirational type of response.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have went it from that vantage point. But then I thought about it from the relationships that I developed with the right hemisphere stroke survivors
Mm.
and me developing a relationship with them. And I really have developed such a close knit community with my right hemisphere stroke survivors, such that they text me, I text them, we're really close. And, we really have this close knit relationship here. We really developed community. And so I selected Brandy's Right Here for that song. It's not one of her most popular songs, but the lyrics are, when your life is going too fast, off the train tracks, I can slow it down. Just when you think you're about to turn back, scared you might crash, I'll be your ground. When you feel your heart's guarded and you see the brakes started, and when the clouds have all departed, you'll be here with me. When your tears have dried from crying and the world has turned silent, I'll be right here with you. You'll be right here with me. And when you're trapped and there's just no key and you can't breathe, I'll breathe for you. The fire's got you down on your knees and the walls are closing in. But I'll be breaking through. And when you feel alone, I'm going to be your home. When others come and go, I got you.
Mm.
Have you ever heard that song by Brandy?
I don't know. I might have to listen to it to see if I.
Let me see if I can pull it up.
But the lyrics sound. I won't play too much, so YouTube does it.
What'd you say?
I said I won't play too much, so YouTube doesn't take my sound away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that the lyrics to that I can. It sounds like a song a therapist would choose. It does. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could listen to the words in that way. This is why I like doing this because sometimes it makes me look at a song in a different way that I hadn't before.
Yeah, and I selected it because, of course the title is Right Here. But
Mm-hmm.
it made me think like, because partly with the right hemisphere stroke survivors, what they have communicated to me is that I have been their support going through their journey where others have not been. And so, and then with the documentary in particular, it's been a healing kind of process for them to go through the documentary. And I continue to be with them even after the documentary, even after their therapy with me. And we started the Right Hemisphere General Advisory for Research Development. And they continue to work with me on in creating a peer-to-peer support group for other right hemisphere stroke survivors. So we meet quarterly. We meet every month, and then we meet quarterly as a group all together where we have dinner and we talk about research development and we talk about community supports and what we're going to do within the community. And so we continue to be with me through all of these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And that you're giving them voice
Mm-hmm.
in the decisions that are made. So this is good. Now tell me a song. This is more related to you.
Mhm.
Tell me a song or song lyrics that have lifted you when things are difficult.
When things are difficult. Okay, so this was an easy one
Mm-hmm.
because I told you that, my mom was a WMPG, and um, I was very close to my mother. And one of the things, the soundtrack that she used to play all the time when we got into the car with her was Sounds of Blackness. Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever heard of Sounds of Blackness? Uh,
Oh yeah, yes.
okay. I mean, every version of Sounds of Blackness. But one of the, I forget which album it was, but Sounds of Blackness. And one soundtrack was like the one that has I Believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was the song I Believe, and part of the lyrics was no need ask me where I've been, just ask me where I'm going. Because I won't be ashamed to tell you I live my life knowing all the roads ahead of me are filled with peace and love. Every step so heavenly, you'll fall and bounce right up. All the miracles and dreams are realized for me through faith. Nothing seems impossible if you believe. I'm a living testimony that the Spirit keeps me going. Oh, I'm feeling so good. Got to raise my hands and rejoice. Say a few words to praise Him every time I lift my voice. And so every time that I am going through difficult times, is that those lyrics always in the back of my mind are
Yeah.
playing every
Yeah.
single time.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I think though, we were jamming that back in the
There's nothing like the 90s. The
yeah,
90s music is absolute best.
it really is.
And I'm very eclectic too. 90s, oh my God.
You know, when I was in Hawaii, that's all you would hear was like it would be old school and 90s music,
It's the best.
R&B. And even now, there's parties that happen all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
specifically focused on 90s.
Yes.
It'll be it'll be an R&B party, but when they play the 90s music,
Oh my God.
everybody, and it's all ages.
Yes. You can't, I don't know what they're doing these days. Okay. That's not music.
It's definitely different.
It's the,
You know, I was watching somebody's interview. I can't remember who it was, and they were saying, um, maybe it was Lou Young and Kev on Stage, but it was like, what's the reason that R&B music is not like it used to be?
Mhm.
And they said because the singers now don't have the gospel and church background.
Yeah.
Because with those songs, you had all the riffs
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
all. I'm not gonna say because I, but I can tell. You can't tell the difference when you listen to it. There's a soulfulness that's
Yes.
missing.
Yeah. It's
Hmm.
definitely everything. The soul, the singing, they're no
Hmm.
singing. They,
Hmm.
they got the computer behind it. I don't,
Yeah.
yeah. Isn't,
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing now. Yeah.
Oh. Well, what is a song that helps you to relax,
Mhm.
recharge, or find peace?
Okay. So this because I love relax, recharge, and find peace. So one song that helps me to relax and find peace. So Breathe by Maverick City Choir.
Mm.
Something about that song that I don't know what it is about the Mavericks. I love Maverick City.
Yeah, they do. It's a,
It
I think it takes us back to God's property.
yes, it's something about Maverick City, and I love Breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also because it tells you to breathe, and it's something about
Mm-hmm.
meditation. And
Mm-hmm.
so that song will just, this goes out to the worry, this goes out to the stress, sorting out a million thoughts running through your head, to everyone that's waiting for better days ahead, tired, frustrated, and leaving words unsaid. Please don't hold your breath, just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miracle we can breathe. There's power in the way that you breathe. Release
Yeah.
heavy burdens and let everything that has breath breathe. Praise the Lord. This is why we breathe. So praise the Lord. It's something about that song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty.
Yeah.
Okay. What song best represents you when you're operating at your highest level?
Oh my God. Oh my gosh, Alaina. So this one was hard, but the
Hmm.
one that I have been rocking to here lately, China Styles, Phenomenal Black Woman. Have you heard that
Mm.
one?
I I don't think I have.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I'm gonna have to play it when I get off of here.
You got it. Alaina, play it. Play it.
Okay.
It's a power anthem. It's a power anthem.
Mm-hmm.
China Styles, Phenomenal Black Woman.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And my last question. Do you have any, it could be an affirmation, a scripture, or a quote, or
Mm-hmm.
multiple, that you can share with us that you like to read or say to yourself?
I have three. So,
Okay,
so
perfect.
okay. So I'm gonna start out with when I'm facing the hateration.
Uh-huh.
I gotta get Maya in my background.
Mm.
So gotta chant this one. Maya said, someone shows you who they are. Believe them for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Know themselves much better than you do.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's important to stop expecting them to be something other than who they are.
Yeah.
Say that one, and then I move on. And then I move on. And then I say, no weapon formed against me shall prosper.
Mm-hmm.
And every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. Isaiah 54:17.
Mm-hmm.
And then the serenity prayer. God
Yeah.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
All the things that will bring you back to peace,
Yeah.
because it takes the any of the worry or angst that you
Mhm.
feel off of you and leaves it in the
Mhm.
space that it
Yes.
that it is.
Yes.
This is good. This is good. Well, Jamila, Dr. Minga, this was great. This is great. Is there anything that you want people to know you have coming up, or I know you said you're not really a social media person, but
Mhm.
if there's any way that you want people to find you, or maybe not, you know, but anything you'd like to share?
Well, well, I don't want to speak too soon, but
Would no, not yeah,
RO1,
only what you want to.
RO1, I may be funded, but I'm going to post it on Instagram if it is.
Okay.
Maybe more soon, but but um, I can send you the QR code for the Right Hemisphere Stroke Registry if you want to attach this to your podcast.
Okay, and the link would be great too,
And
because
the
I don't
link.
know if I can put the code in the YouTube show note, but I can definitely put the link. So both could be great. Dr. Minga, thank you so much for coming on, having conversation with me, for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and your experiences, and for telling people about what right hemisphere disorder is, what it looks like, things that people can be um, thinking about, or even asking questions about, right? If they do have a loved one, or they themselves have this type of experience. I think you shared a wealth of knowledge. And it's just been great to get to catch up with you at the same time. So
You're
thank you.
Yes, you're very welcome, Dr. Davis. Thank you so much for having me. And if I can provide you with any articles or anything to attach to this podcast, do let me know.
Okay, I sure will. All right, y'all, until next time.
Bye bye.